you know, for a while there was one of the hit slangs that people use, everything is everything. You know, you'd say hello to a musician or something, it's everything, you know, their way of saying everything is cool was everything is everything, which is absolutely true. And the understanding about that, the deeper understanding about that is extremely inviting and liberating. So I overheard you were talking about someone who was transcribing the course or typing out the course.
Typing it out, yeah. Amy Torres did that. She
Yeah.
said, you know, it was a revelation to just do that, you know. Not to interpret it or anything, just to type it out. I mean,
yeah, it's mind-blowing because you're altering the way you quote-unquote usually read it. When you're usually reading it, you read it like you read anything else. You read it like you read a book. But when you really start transcribing, you have to go back to the idea over and over and over again because you want to be accurate. You want to make sure you get it the way it was written. So it gives the mind more opportunities to have a look at what it is, to look into it, to see into it. I have a dear friend who loved the idea of intimacy as being into me, I see. Intimacy, into me, I see. And when you do something like that, when you alter that usually mundane approach to looking at something or reading something or feeling what it is, when you go beyond that mundane or superficial limited way that we always do, that I always do everything, what happens is you fall into love. You fall into the greater subtext, substructure, not structure at all, it's beyond structure, of perfect love, because that's the fundamental organizing principle of everything. That's the foundation of everything. Life is fundamentally an experience of incomprehensible, loving, creative expression. That's the only thing that's going on. That's what's referred to as heaven, the reality of what you are, who you are, the nature of all things. That is the God who is the all in all. The idea of omnipresence, omnipotence, all-powerful, all-present in everything. The infinite in everything. That's what everything is. That thing you call your arm. The eyes you think you're looking at it. The things and objects you think you're seeing. It's not what I think it is. And when I hold my mind accountable for the reality of what it is, something wonderful happens. That mundane, distracted, severely limited understanding is transmuted. It's opened up. It's interrupted. And right on the other side of what I think everything is, you are, Gus is, this box I live in called my apartment, right on the other side of, it's actually not the other side, the reality of what it is you're living in this living intelligence, infinitely kind, infinitely intelligent, creative presence called God Almighty, of which you are a part of which everything is a living part of. So now the ego's defenses about that are to shut down, right? When you start wandering into that territory, if you're not prepared for it, if you're not actively and enthusiastically wanting and appreciating that transition, that shift from the mundane to the spiritual, from illusion to truth, what your ego will do will put you to sleep. You won't be able to hear it. If you get down there, Jeffrey will be boring again. So you have, it's like everything in the world is an acquired taste. You developed an interest in it. There really isn't anything here to be interested in. Because everything that you become interested in essentially distracts you from the abstract state that's natural to you. This infinite experience of I don't know what to call it, and I don't have any explanation for it, and I can't even think of what it is, because when I think of what it is, my mind numbs out. But beyond that numbness, hi Tavi, beyond that numbness is God creating. It's reality. Let's see. I'll sit over here. Tavi, you can sit over here.
Hey, Tavi, how are you?
I'll sit down here. I really am not going to need my
Sit here. You can sit here.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I like this idea. I hope it's okay with you. It's perfectly in line with the Course. The way we hold everything, the way the egocentric thought system holds everything, is it defends its little turf. What's the turf? The turf is my world, Jeffrey's world, what I think life is, what I think Jeffrey is. It defends that by maintaining vigilance only for that. That's why, when people pray, they have a hard time praying, or they don't know what to pray for. It gets confusing. They can't wait to get the prayer over with so they can get to sleep or get to work or whatever. Or when they meditate, it's like, the dreaded meditation. This is where I go to sleep. This is where I nod out and my head starts popping up and down. Because that's that ego thought system that's been heavily favored, influencing its autonomy, its authority. Because I gave it authority. I gave it the larger part of my energy. My daily practice was operating out of that egocentric system, making it stronger and stronger and more influential because you had to work to do that. None of that just happened. Everything you think you know, everything to your liking or to your not liking that's going on in your life, you made that. You made it. You developed the ability to recognize it. You developed the ability to like it or not like it. You took the things you like and the things you didn't like, and you wrapped them all into a system called my life, and vowed, either unconsciously or obviously it had to be conscious, but you may feel unconscious about it. You you swore your allegiance to it, that you would defend it no matter what. So that's the life we're living, right? So that thing is an operation, that influence is an operation. It's governing everything. It's making every day the same, more or less. Some version of the same thing. And when you start to work to shift that, you start experiencing that defense against it. Right? There's so much of that kind of content in the Course and in the workbook lessons. Sickness is a defense against the truth. I don't think of it that way. I'm not aware that, when I feel this or I feel that or that symptom seems to happen, that I'm actually choosing it, and I can't see how I am. But that's the understanding that provides the unmaking of it, the undoing of it, where you begin to train the mind to think differently, to move beyond that narrow veneer of numbness and distractedness and boredom at best, and abject, I think it's abject, misery at worst. right? And that whole system, from boredom to terror to pain to severe suffering, is all made up. It's all the product of, it's your life work. You know, your ego's preoccupation. That's what it's known for. That's what it makes. It makes that. Doesn't know how to make anything else. Can't make anything else, because it was trained, or it is that training out of which you deduct yourself and perceive yourself to be in a world that really doesn't exist. Because all the while, fundamentally, what's happening right now is not, I don't know, what is it, 7:15 or 7:20 or whatever time it is. That's not what time it is. What the truth is, it's eternal reality now, and it's eternal reality now, and it's wholly instant now, and it's wholly instant now. But your mind has to be trained to recognize it, to live out of that understanding, which is a very rich and powerful, profound understanding. It's calming and deeply moving and brings you into recognition and under the influence of a whole other system, not even a system, but a whole other universe of influences that are all healing and powerfully comforting and calming and not at all stress, anxiety, fear related at all. They're not oriented at all in that, which are all made up. Remember, there is no such thing as fear. Fear is the absence of recognizing love. Or fear is the effect or the result of objecting or denying love, trying to deny love. You can only feel afraid when you've decided against yourself. That may seem to take the form of deciding against somebody else or something else, you know, and of course, the famous comedian, comic personality, what was her name? She used to be on Saturday Night Live all the time. Gilda Radner.
Oh, love her.
She used to play that character. It's always something. You know, that Hispanic character who was always ranting and raving and going on about this, that, or the other thing in the world. You know, it was always something. Well, that's what the mind is. It's always generating that something that's a distraction that is made to lead you away from the sacred reality, the sacred, enriching reality of your beautiful self-presence, your magnificent, majestic, God-created self-presence, which the ego knows nothing of. So, as in all things in the Course in Miracles, it's all about undoing, right? It's all about reversing this illusory effect, this attempt to deny the unforgettable. Because God is the unforgettable. How could you forget yourself? How could you not know what you are and who you are? Only in a condition as strange and incomprehensible as a separated self, a separated thought system, could you fantasize about such a thing, about like being afraid. Fear doesn't exist, right? It doesn't exist anywhere in the thought system you share with God. These are all alien. All the anxiety-oriented, human, separate self emotions are all totally alien to your deeper nature. It's kind of odd that you would need a book to get reacquainted, to reacquaint yourself with your deeper nature. But in an upside-down, inverted system like the world, in an impossible situation, in an impossible dream, you would need some version of the impossible to return you to the truth, which is the only thing that's possible. Right? Holy Spirit says this is an impossible situation. into this impossible situation, and comes God's teacher. So you have to develop, and everyone does in time, your allegiance, your association with the ego wears thin. You go nuts. You go crazy. You become so distraught, so disturbed, so distracted, so pathetically insane. I'm describing myself.
Come on.
No, I am.
Okay.
I'm describing this
All right.
thing called Jeffrey, this neurotic system called Jeffrey. I don't identify. I can talk about that because that's not who I am. Right? So, but that's what everybody does. They work it until they've tried everything within that system and discover for themselves that it's broke. It doesn't work. There's no way to arrive at what I'm looking for in that system, no matter how I tweak it. And that becomes the moment at which the book falls off the shelf in the bookstore, and it happens to be the perfect book you need to read, which is leading you to whatever the system's going to be. Whatever that book is for you, that's going to begin that process of reversing your mind, of turning it around, inverting it, writing it, as in course terms would be writing it, making it right again, undoing the effects of objection and denial. And in a system like A Course in Miracles, so you start off with this system, and at first it's intriguing in the mind, then the mind starts like reacting against it. Sooner or later, people have issues with the Course in some form or another. So you have to earn that rite of passage, that ability to move out and beyond the effects of this gristle that keeps me hemmed in and keeps me thinking in a belittled and small matter. Everybody getting this? This makes sense? So like all things in the world, you have to develop a taste, an appetite for that. I can remember the first time I had pizza. I was a little kid. I'll never forget it. I never smelled anything so terrible.
What?
It, to me, so terrible. I was going for pizza. This neighborhood family took my brother and I went out. I remember sitting at the table, and what is that smell? To me, it smelled like old sneakers and socks, like gym socks that have been worn over and over and over again, and it's Friday and they got to go home and get in the wash, it's like this foul. Whew. And now, when the pizza came and I remember starting eating it, I liked the way it tasted, but I thought it smelled atrocious, I thought it was just horrid. But what I'm pointing out is I had to learn to like it. I had to teach myself to like it, and we do that. Now, the things we arrive at are more or less appealing to us than other things, and that's why we favor them. But still, everything that's going on in my life or going on in your life was chosen. I developed a feeling for it, a taste for it, a tolerance for it. But all the good things and all the things I don't think are good, right? Because the attachment to the things I don't like is equally as strong, maybe even stronger, than the things I do like. And ultimately, the mind adjusts to those likes and dislikes, and to the mind, it's all the same. It protects. If that's what you want to protect, then it protects it, whether you're in agony over it or not. And the way it protects it is by remaking it, reconstituting it, bringing it up over and over and over again, right? Isn't it interesting that people will get in relationships with others, and 3 or 4 relationships down the road, we begin to realize they're always the same. It's always my version of what I don't like. It always winds up. That is the unconscious or the conscious unconscious predisposition of the worldly mind. It's just going to revisit that miserable, terrifying dream over and over again, inescapable dream, until you've had enough. So you pick up the course, and you start reading the course, and you begin to train the mind to think differently, to look beyond what it seems to think and what it seems to say and what it seems to explain. And the way we got to this is we started with the idea of transcribing. Kevin went to a Course in Miracles teacher or class, and this person, why did they transcribe it? Were they doing it just as a practice?
Yeah, she had a secretary job, and she wasn't very busy, so she decided to transcribe the course, and she looked really busy, and she got to transcribe the course.
Oh, I see. What a perfect thing. So it had the appearance of she's really working. That girl's diligent. And she is working. But not for her, not for the boss that's feeling so great about her employment. She's working for the boss. Jesus used to refer to that as God's business, my Father's business. So
if I may, so a lot of this, it seems to be kind of, we're either in a state of love or in a state of distracting us from that love.
Yes, those are and of course would also perhaps illustrate that with the idea of it's truth or nothing. It's love or fear. It's truth or illusion. So, and in this aberrated, error-prone state of mind where everything is the reverse of what it is, right? And nothing is really as I think it is. It needs to be undone. It needs to be turned around, reversed. And the reversal of it we call healing. And healing is, at least in the initial stages, is a practice. It's a practice. You practice these new ideas. You develop the tolerance for them. Maybe in the beginning there's a little bit of a fascination or a little willingness of allowance for the idea, but then it leads you on. It takes you further. It expands the idea. The Course is wonderful at just opening up these fundamental principal themes having to do with perfect love, original love. The 50 principles of miracles in the beginning, and then it goes in depth into these. It's like if you go into that one thing, there's a whole universe of additional content about that, and it's endless. Michelangelo used to say that, that all this work that he was getting all these rave reviews for, which was incredibly artistic and beautiful and just incredibly skillful, he often said it's nothing. It's like I can't really express what I'm saying. This was the best he could do. And everybody has that experience. It's like the words you use, the songs you write, the effects that seem to be the effects of your life's work will never seem enough to your worldly or personality mind. It'll always seem little and inconsequential. It'll always seem not as good as, right? Everything will always appear to be brighter and better and more appealing and more attractive. That except what's closest to you, which is the sickness of the world, the disease of the egocentric mind, self-loathing, self-betrayal, self-denial, the attempt to cancel your own vote, to not love yourself, right? Jesus says, my brothers suffer because they don't love themselves. They don't know. If you don't love yourself, how can you ever get to what you are? The breathtaking experience of being calm and quiet and still in the presence of your own majesty, which God created and revels in. People say, well, Where's God? I don't know if there's a God. Well, you'll never resolve that riddle for yourself until you begin to grasp and comprehend the idea of abiding love and the work of love. The works of love. Well, what's a work of love? Well, let's start with you. That unseparated, abstract, infinitely good, infinitely loving and lovable idea that God has for you, which He's having for you right now, which never goes away. God is never distracted. God doesn't think in terms of, okay, Honora, Ilsa, see ya, I got to go hang out with Kevin a little bit, It's, you have all of His attention all the time. Literally, if you get a sense of what's really going on, then every move you make, every sound you make, everything you think you see takes you to infinite Creator creating wholly here now. Everything. Because that's what it is. Only your mind argues and makes a case for it not being that way.
Can I just say, when I was talking earlier too, I was saying how I was reading psychology in the car while I was waiting to come in, and I had to go look. You already said this.
The one on psychotherapy?
Yeah, psychotherapy. And I had to read the same paragraph like 6 times, which I really...
Yeah. That's a good indication
right.
of how much the mind is saying, oh, not that again.
Yeah, but my mind wasn't actually saying that this time. It was really more or less saying, wait a minute. You just don't skate through here. This is very important. Don't skate through it, And I can do that with the words now. But I'm not yet there when I see the world around me. I'm not yet there with that.
Okay, so that's a perfect area where you can ask for help.
Right.
Where you can say, I'm having this experience where when I read and I'm reading these ideas that are sacred in and of themselves and that are bringing sacred content to my attention, to my awareness. But when I put the words down, or the book down, when I put that form of the sacredness down and look out at the world I think I see, I seem to set it aside. That sacredness seems to end there.
I don't see.
Yeah. Let's today have it be about seeing with the eyes that can see.
Right.
That would be a very simple prayer you could make in the morning about how to dedicate your visual experience, your perceivable experience to Christ, so that you can have and experience His sight, because it's right here. If you're not applying it, being grateful for it, looking through those eyes, then you're deciding not to. You're deciding, no, I think I'll leave it over there because I got to go to work, or I have to do this, or
I'm not even at decision at times. I'm not even at decision to make that decision.
Say that again.
And you said you can decide for it.
Yeah.
I said I'm not even at decision at times.
You're not even aware that you're deciding.
Yeah, I'm not even at it.
But you can easily.
I'm not aware of it. You're right.
Yeah.
You're not aware.
Yeah, because you're deciding all the time. You're choosing all the time. Your mind is never going anywhere other than where you assign it. So, you
but
can.
At least I'm aware that I'm aware of that I'm not.
Well, don't make it so hard. You know what I mean?
Make it hard.
Or so complicated, and don't be so sure about any of it. Because the less sure you are about what you think it is, the greater the opportunity for you to be shown what it is from the living presence of what it is.
You know, you said, I'm becoming aware that I'm not processing the world through the Christ, you know? But I think that's like the big step. I mean, you'll go talk to your random stranger about, you know, do you ever think about how you process your world? Or, I mean, you know, you're talking about a very small percentage of people that are even willing to question what they think and what they feel about things. So, you know,
It's
that's a big step for
I
anybody, you know. So
said, thank you. The closest I come to now is when I see someone pass me quickly in any direction. I don't just see someone pass me. I say, bless you, bless you.
mm-hmm.
Bless you.
Well,
That's
all
as
that-
fast as I can get to it.
All that's part of the same ability, natural ability you have to stand in the presence of, no matter what form it seems to appear in, right? God is my only goal today. You know, let me behold what he would have me see. We look upon all things through the holy vision that is surely here and within me.
You know, in teaching music, one of the things that's commonly problematic, like in beginners, is they'll take a pause before they move because they want it to be right. So they're not focusing on that it has to be in time. I don't know if you understand what I mean.
Yes, I do.
The vast majority of the time, they're not aware of it. And I have to try to get them to be aware of it first. Once they're aware of it, it fixes rather quickly. But sometimes it takes years for people to even become aware of it, you know. Now, in the past, they used to say, well, you should be aware of it. And I used to put my finger out there. Now I realize every time I'm saying you need to be aware of it, yeah, I need to be aware of my own tracks. I mean, just because I happen to see what they're maybe not aware of, it's certainly, there's a lot of things I'm not aware of. And it's helpful to always just mirror it, always, whatever you're thinking about somebody else, just to always think there's something in me that's not seeing something. If I'm saying they're not seeing something, I'm definitely not seeing something. And it keeps your eyes open, even if you might not be able to. Yeah, it just just to be. It's a humbling experience. You're never getting caught up in I know more than you do, because ultimately nobody knows more.
That's right. How could everything know more than everything?
Right, exactly.
And the idea of everything is much simpler. The reality of everything is a far simpler understanding than anything you can imagine in your worldly system. So, I mean, we haven't lost it, but we've undervalued our appreciation for how easy everything can be. You know, how fundamentally easy it is to be what you are, and how excruciatingly difficult it is to try to be different. I'm trying to find what the workbook was, and I can't remember what number it was.
You were in the high 200s from what I remember.
Was it the high 200s?
A week ago it was God is my only goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. What number is that? Oh, here it is. You are my goal, my Father, only you know.
Because when I'm dancing, music, or just moving, I don't have any problems at all being in the moment and moving around.
Yeah, sure.
But when I try to do a musical instrument, I have difficulty.
Yeah. There does seem to be some things that, I don't know what it is, if it's karma, but there does seem to be some things that we just naturally get in this life, you know? Like we get music for some reason. Other people don't.
It's a language. It's like a language, really, or it's a creative ability. It's something that's in you. It's like someone who.
It just seems easy. Like
all
the mind just doesn't come in and interfere.
Yeah, they all represent uniquely personal, perfect attractions for you for your own learning curve. They're all temporary, and they all evolve and lead beyond the thing itself. But they're byproducts of your own apparent need, right? It's your own energy, it's your own evolution, it's the deeper knowledge and wisdom and truth in you that is leading you through the better part of your life. You can't ever be aware of that when you're thinking egotistically. But it's always an influence. Always an influence. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the idea of awakening, it's the recognition that there was never anything else going on. I was never not awake. I was never not the way I am, the self that I am. All of that other stuff that I was so caught up in, resisting, trying to make hay with, was never the case. Nothing was ever the way I thought it was. Hence, there is no past. None of those things exist in a static state. That's the way it is. That's what happened. Got to move on. We live in a much more mobile, energetic experience of enlivenment that bears no resemblance whatsoever to what I think or what I thought. So as you, through your own desire, earn your freedom from that entrapping system of what I think, you come awake. You come into this brings me back to something you said earlier. It's like, or you're having an experience where you're reading your lesson or you're reading something in the book, in the pamphlet, and you went back and read it again, and you went back and read it again, and maybe in each successive moment of reading it, you have the experience of, wow, I just read it again. That must be the third or fourth time, and I kind of feel like I never read it before, or I'm not getting it like I am now. So, what often happens to seekers, to spiritual students, is then they make that a rule. They make that a dictate. So now they got to read it 15 times because every time I'm never going to go on. I'm just going to keep reading this thing because.
Hope not.
Well, but that's how the mind works. It's the ego is going to try to co-opt any impulse, any useful or helpful impulse that the Holy Spirit provides for you, insight. It's going to attempt to bend it and bring it under its rule, its influence. It's going to attempt to use it to hold you back.
The minute you have a realization about something that could be wonderful, the ego is going to try to make it into some kind of form.
Some kind of practice. Yes.
Yeah.
Sabotage. Self-sabotaging.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the nature of how this mind, this thought system that I make, in order to survive, which is the dictate, the direction, the directive I gave it, that's what it does. It's got to use it for its own purpose. Otherwise, it's such a weak system, it just all collapses and becomes part of what it really is, which is none of that. So, everybody goes through these processes where musicians do anything in life where you think you got it all figured out now. Now I just have to read it 6 times and then I can go on. Of course, you never get to work on time. You break every agreement you make with anybody about being on time because you're practicing this new revelation that really isn't a revelation at all. Might have been for a holy instant it was a revelation, but never to be used in the way that the ego wants to use it.
Not continuously.
Yeah, because ultimately, if you read it 6 times, and you're having this experience of understanding, but every time you try to think about what it is you're understanding, or you try to define that understanding, you lose it. You begin to realize that I see it's the holding on, the attempt to hold on and understand things in a repeatable way. That's what blocks the creative understanding. The experience of understanding. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
The experience of understanding is far superior. The experience of it is far superior, attractive, and appealing and powerful than the attempt to understand.
No, I do get that the experience of understanding is definitely more powerful than the attempt to understand. But for some reason, there are spots...
No, for no reason.
Well, let me use my words for a moment. There are spots...
Yeah, I'm trying to help you out.
I know that. There are spots somewhere where I have come to the realization that I need to spend a little more time in this spot, in this area.
That's what you think.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Okay, and I'm not trying to diminish what you think. I'm
Right.
only saying its usefulness is only for that moment. If you make it into a rule and try to carry it forward, now you're repeating yourself.
If you say, I'm the type of person that
Yeah.
has to read it 6 times, then
Yeah. you
See,
do that.
Holy
your
Spirit...
mind says, okay, let's,
Holy
let's make
Spirit
that-
works a lot faster. Holy Spirit works at God's speed. God's speed is just always giving you holy here now. It's much easier than that. Eventually, after you read it 6, 7, 8, 9 times, you realize I need do nothing. I don't have to understand any of this. In fact, within my Jeffrey thinking, I can't possibly understand anything. So the only move I can make that makes any sense is to shift out of my thinking by acknowledging that I don't understand anything. I don't know what anything is. So that greater understanding, which is not over there but right here, can make itself known to me, can teach me of itself. So instead of you trying to understand, you allow the understanding of what this is to inform you. That's how the table comes alive. That's how you begin to appreciate that this is not a plastic table. It's something far beyond what I think it is. This is what it really means, the idea that you let live. You let everything live instead of trying to be the determining agent about what gets to live and what doesn't, what's real and what isn't. How would this system of unreality, which is impossible because God didn't create it, understand anything? The most I can contribute in my worldly version of myself is to acknowledge that I don't understand anything, to let go of what I think about everything. That's what channeling is. That's what God's voice, only into that state of openness, which is really just a little willingness, can God enter. Can God's teacher enter? Can God's voice speak? That's how you zip it up, right? You know what I'm saying? That's how you set aside the things that don't really matter so that everything that does matter can make itself known to me.
How do you allow that to happen all the time? I have so much resistance.
First of all, by recognizing it is happening all the time, whether I resist it or recognize it. God is not affected whatsoever by the illusion of resistance, which really doesn't exist.
So practically, the resistance that I'm feeling is distraction.
What's your workbook lesson?
Distraction of I haven't done it in a while.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. So
and it's hard for me to even sit down and do it. It's like, I did the whole thing, and it's like, oh, what's the point? Why do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
Like,
The mind will...
What is it leading to? Why am I doing this?
You don't have to do it.
Okay.
It's just that the answer to that question will become a lot clearer to you in an experiential, ever-present, moment-to-moment way. It's likely to if you do your workbook lessons.
Okay. I think what happened was I got really into it. Another type of Course in Miracles thing that was really technical. This guy named Michael Murray in Ireland. And he breaks it down really in a way that I can understand. And I started doing some of his stuff, but that got super confusing. I just got way in my head about it. And I remember how the lessons felt when I would do it straight from the book. and then I'm just all over the place kind of with it. I'm just like,
Yeah,
I
I
need to
mean,
focus because I guess that's the sabotager that's.
it's like, what's the difference? This is the way to do that.
Okay.
Or if this works, then this is the way to do that for you. But watch your mind and be alert, be vigilant for that aspect of your mind that's likely to mislead you in a variety of familiar ways. That's likely to get distracted with what this one says and that system, and next thing you know, you're working 5 systems, and you're just.
And you do nothing.
You're doing well. You're not really.
Right,
I wouldn't agree that
nothing
you're not doing anything, but yeah, you lose your sense of just being, right?
Yeah.
Because the mind just is getting pulled into all these what appears to be confusing and complex directions, which are really all the same. Fundamentally, I need do nothing. That's the principle that I want to start with every day, is that I'm whole and perfect as God created me. I'm loving and lovable. All that infinite creativity expresses is what's being expressed in me and through me as the self that I am. So I'm already there. That's the first step.
Okay, already there.
Right? Because if you're looking, well, that's what's going to happen. You're going to laugh a lot more.
No, it's a good reminder because
yeah. I mean, where is there to go? Where are you trying to go? And what would you go from? And what would you go to? And if you had to go to it, then how can you ever get there?
How am I going to get there? Because I'm already there.
Yeah, you are the experience of here and there, right? The Beatles wrote about it, here, there, and everywhere.
And the book is just a reminder of like, oh, I'm already there. Oh, I'm already there.
Well, that's all this is, right?
I'm already there, yeah. So remember,
God is the only goal I have today.
Okay.
God is the only goal I have today. That was the workbook lesson I was working on. And after that was, let me remember what my purpose is. Then after that, it was, let me remember that my goal is God. They're all the same thing. But each one is profoundly consistent and a step in the overall process of whatever's next for me. Because how would I know?
Okay.
I'm just glad that somehow this fell off the shelf. And this got my attention, and I had enough sense to follow along.
Okay.
And then immerse myself in it. I mean, the whole function and purpose of a group, of me doing this thing, which I've been doing for 30-some years now, is because that's just another beautiful way to share the fact that we're all here, in it already. It's all accomplished. It's done. It's a done deal.
It's a vehicle for that.
Yeah, so you don't do the workbook lessons to get better. You do it to remind yourself of the thing that's already the desired goal. It's already that.
Okay, so if I've already done the whole workbook, read all the books, so should I just do it again and just keep doing it?
I don't know. I mean,
would that be useful?
You could.
That be a useful
You
thing
could.
to do?
I can just tell you my experience. I've read it. I can't tell you what to do. You know. I've read it many, many times. All of the
the text. I'm getting too in my head about it. I'm like, oh, I already did it, so now what do I do?
Yeah, I don't know anything more than you do. I'm not privy to any more information you're privy to. I'm just sitting here sharing an experience with you of how profoundly easy and simple it is to realize that everything I'm trying to find over here and over there and that I'm searching for, it's always right here.
Okay.
And that's what this system does, is it brings it all home. It brings it into the most deepest personal experience of gratitude. That the truth, that only the truth is truth, in which is my freedom, my liberty, my sanity, my reason, my strength.
Okay.
The truth of what I am, which is that incomprehensible experience of the understanding that surpasses the world. So that if you pick up the book and you read it, wonderful. If you don't pick up the book and you don't read it, wonderful.
That might be one lesson for every day. for the rest of my life.
Well, what else is, what to the rest of your life? There is no rest of your life. This is it. Right? This is it. Holy here now is it. Holy instant is it. That's the rest of your life. However you choose to celebrate that, to express it for in this experience of days and nights and months and years, this limited temporary thing we call a lifetime, let it all be guided and influenced by the totality of your life, the holy here now, the holy instant. Let all that is, of which I could never understand, reveal itself to me today.
Let the celebration occur.
Yeah, happiness is everything. One of the workbook lessons is, your only goal, my only goal is happiness. My purpose is happiness. Well, that's too simple. I have to earn a living. I have to be accomplished. I have to become a good musician. I have to get better. Those are all disastrous ideas that lead you out of the sacredness of everything that you already are.
Then how do you practically do that with bills and
He's asking me again. No, go ahead.
I mean,
how do you practice it?
Theory,
I don't know.
But letting the spirit go through, but then I got to pay bills and do a thing.
Well, there's no rule that says paying bills has to interrupt God's teacher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
no rule.
Theory.
There's no rule that says you have to. Let me know if he starts.
No, he's good.
Okay. Because he does. He'll start digging his claws.
Yeah, I've got a cat, so.
Okay,
They got a similar
outlook. Yeah. Oh, this is pretty good. Let me deepen my. What was the question?
Yeah, how do I make it practical?
Yeah.
Like bills and stuff that I don't want to do.
Because what could be practical of you just being at rest and at ease under the guidance of influence of the Holy Christ while you balance your checkbook or go to work?
So let's say, if I'm having
first
resistance
things first.
to the book, to the checkbook or something, then it's just that's an ego problem. I can let spirit go through and enjoy all of it.
Well, spirit is present and enjoying it all.
Okay.
And you're just a little confused about it.
Not tuned into the frequency of it.
Yeah, because you decided because you decided that sitting here balancing my checkbook is sitting here and is me. The thing I think myself to be is sitting here balancing the checkbook, and that's going to be a rough process. You know what I mean?
It becomes a spiritual. All that becomes a spiritual practice too.
Yeah, it is.
You see how you interact with the concept of money, which is a spiritual practice, or the concept of relationship,
which is a spiritual practice.
It's all a spiritual practice.
Yeah,
and you get hung up on things. That's your spiritual practice for today. That could be
absolutely, and all the practices. Spiritual practice is what? Spiritual presence.
Oh, that's like your lesson.
Yeah, I mean, sure. You get caught up on something. That's
where I need to focus. Oh, I'm reacting to the checkbook.
See how you're feeling.
Yeah. Am I gonna? Am I actually gonna step away from holy presence to get caught up in the way I balance my checkbook? I mean, would I do that to myself? Would I want that for myself? So instead of that, I'll let it be done by this infinite intelligence through me.
And that's everything.
Everything.
Every single thing you do.
And
we do.
The goal is for everything all the time.
Everything you think you do is just the one thing you're doing right now.
Yes.
Remember the movie City Slickers with Jack Palance and Billy Crystal? Mm-hmm. Remember Curly, the cowboy, the old cowhand?
Yeah.
Right? Who was really kind of a benign teacher-like presence in the midst of this cattle drive that they were doing. He gets the Billy Crystal character and they go out into the boondocks together to go find a stray calf or something. And Billy Crystal's terrified of this guy. Curly is his name. He's terrified of him. He thinks Curly's going to take him out there and slit his throat or something. He's going to do something horrible to him. But he discovers Curly's just this wonderful cowboy, Christ presence teacher. And he says to Billy Crystal, he says, you city slickers are all the same. He says, you tie yourself up in knots, live in the big city, tie yourself up in knots, get this idea you're going to go out on a cattle drive and be a cowboy for a couple of weeks, and you come out here and it's always the same thing. You're at the merciless effect of your mind and how complicated you make everything. He says to Billy Crystal, the secret to life is one thing. And then he doesn't say anything more. And Billy Crystal says, well, aren't you going to tell me what it is? What is it? What is the secret to life? And Curly looks at him and starts rolling a cigarette. And he says, you're going to have to find that out for yourself. Because the secret, that thing is this thing. It's this thing you're doing right now. It's whatever that is, which is no different than the next thing you're going to do. Which is no different than if you do this or do something else. What do you think you're doing it with? The mind, the presence, the self, the life that's doing this, that, or the other thing is singular self. It's one self. It's the holy self. You're always in the presence of your own majesty, of your own lovable reality, of your own Christ nature. You are always in the presence of everything you ever wanted or hoped you could be. It doesn't get any better than you. So, what is it going to take to get the mind to think in accord with that presence? To be open to it, respectful of it, grateful for it, appreciative, and open to it, out of which comes natural celebration. What is it going to take? Whatever it takes. What is it going to take? Whatever you choose. Well, whatever you choose, right? Yeah, certainly anything you're doing right now can be the vehicle, the shift point, the transition, the moment of truth, because truth doesn't go anywhere. It's like the whole idea of the crucifix, of the cross is ascension and the linear, where holy instant meets time. Right? That's the whole thing about that. So when is holy instant not holy instant? When is not that? It's always happening. And you can train your mind through your own natural desire to respect it and honor it and be thankful for it, to be under the influence of that anytime you choose to. You're training your mind to do that. There's nothing else to learn. And that learning is happening all the time. Now it can be easy or it can be hard. And what determines whether it's easy or hard, or whether you continue to invest in your own egocentric distractions, which is hard, that's the hard button, or whether you're gonna learn to leave it alone. Just leave it alone. Where now you're having this experience where you're just here and you're watching, observing your mind's race for influence, its attempt to dominate, and you're no longer vulnerable or susceptible to that domination because you have elected to be free of it out of recognition for what it is. It's not the truth that sets me free. So why would I want to follow my own madness? Right? Everything about the Course is teaching you that it's madness, Let's see, what's my lesson today? All right, the one I had yesterday was, let me perceive no differences today. No differences. That's that's part of the theme we've been talking about. No differences is like, it's all the same. This is not different from this, which is not different from that. Now the mind may say, and what the mind does, until you decide otherwise, the mind says, this is the same as, except where it says, but this is different. And that's, where you go ballistic and you get all bent out of shape and have a big upset and a meltdown and start yelling and screaming and feeling, right? But it's all the same. You're only insisting that this is now different. It's all the same.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what number you want?
Well, I wasn't necessarily going to read it, but I could.
I thought you were. Okay, never mind.
Well, no, I will read it. It's why not? It's the same. What difference does it make? What am I going to go pick up that book? It's the same stuff over there. All right, so this one is lesson 292. No, 262.
Oh, 262.
Yeah, 262. Let me perceive no differences today. And by the way, the next lesson, which is the one I did today, is my holy vision sees all things as pure, as perfect, as God sees them. That's okay. Right? It sees all things as pure. My holy vision sees all things as pure. Anyway, okay, I'm going back to the one before. Let me perceive no differences today. 262. And at this stage in the book, it's less conceptual and more direct in terms of how the form of the lessons. Now you're talking directly with God. Father, starting off, Father, you have one son. It's like, tag, I'm it. Father, you have one son, but not alone. Not alone. Father, you have one son, and it is he that I would look upon today. Well, if there's no difference anywhere, and God is omnipotent and omnipresent, and it's one son, one son, one son, one son. If you have a problem with the word son, then you have oneness. It's all part of what is not different. Heaven is perfectly united, Perfect love is perfect because it's everywhere always. That doesn't exclude you. You can't exempt yourself from that. Right? And that's the whole function of that mind you seem to think and entrap yourself within. The whole purpose is to exempt and to take exception where there are none. To make exemptions to try to exclude from the totality what can't be excluded from the totality, to try to make an exception where it's in the perfect sameness of everything. So let me perceive no differences today. Father, you have one son, it is he that I would look upon today. He is your one creation. There isn't many creations. It's all one creation. Infinite oneness is infinite oneness. Abstract reality is perfect love. Perfect love is everywhere, always. God is here with you and for you. Why should I perceive 1,000 forms in what remains as one? Why should I give this one 1,000 different names, 1,000 names, when only one suffices? See, the names aren't the problem, but only if the names take the place of the oneness. If I realize it's just, what difference is your name? I know you as holy creator creating. God's infinite will, that's what I know you as. I know you as the perfectly loving and the perfectly lovable. Makes everything really simple. That's all I need to remember. I don't need to know your name, because that's your name. Right? The idea of all names are one in God. Why should I give this one 1,000 names when only one suffices? For your son must bear your name, right? It's all the same thing. It's all what is of God is of God. And that's forever true, uninterruptible, unforgettable, inviolate, can't be changed, inviolate. For your son must bear your name, for you created him. Let me not see him as a stranger to his father, which is what I would make him if I get caught up in my judgments about what I think he or she is or it is. If I think this is a plastic table, I'm lost. You know, if I think I'm living in Jeffrey's apartment, I'm lost. I have to understand that the walls are alive, you know.
I love that statement you read, is let me not be a stranger to my
Let me not see him as a stranger. Let me not be a stranger to myself.
Yeah.
Let myself not be a stranger to me, because that's who the other is. Let me not see him as a stranger to his Father. Let me not see him as separate from God, a stranger to his Father, nor a stranger to myself, for he is part of me, and I of him. And we are part of you, who are our source. Eternally, what happened? Okay, who are our source? Eternally united in your love, eternally the Holy Son of God. It gets very simple, you know, at this state in the book. We are one. We who are one would recognize this day, this holy instant, this moment, the truth about ourselves, and then, obviously, all including everything else, the truth about everything. We would come home. How else can I get home unless I can see into all these things and through it to the nature of what it really is? To the simple, profound understanding that God is the all in all. There's nothing that is not a part of that infinite presence. Everything is alive because of infinite presence. Nothing as I think it to be. There are no tables, there's no plastic, there's no couches, rugs, forms, things, inanimate, unliving things, rocks in hard places. Rocks in hard places don't exist.
That's why I love the beginning lessons. You know, the number 1 lesson, number 2 lessons.
They're meant to gently shift the mind.
Yeah.
But they're all the same. There's no difference between the beginning lessons and the end lessons, except what your mind would have them be. How could they be different? You know, how could they
I know you're right, but I'm not there yet.
No. Wait a minute. Who am I talking to?
You're talking to Jesus.
Well, Jesus doesn't exist. Christ is the singular identity. Okay, so then where is Christ?
Everywhere.
Okay, so then how could you not be that or there?
Yeah, I lost it.
Yeah, so watch your mind, because, you know, I once heard this Buddhist talk about this and use it in his teaching. And his teacher, he talked about this idea of big mind. You know, and he'd start explaining something and people start asking questions. Once they started asking questions, really all questions are by design meant to interrupt and distract. Now, I love questions, and I'm okay with all of them, and I appreciate them, and always get something out of the process of hearing them and answering them. But at the same time, I do understand, you know, there's no answer for any of the questions. There's no particular, specific answer to any of the questions. The answer to the question is always the same. And it's always much simpler than what your mind is looking for. Your mind is not looking for the simple. It's looking for something that it can focus on, that it can now make that the thing.
Right.
All right?
It
It's almost like it makes that the next question.
Well, it's always exempting and accepting in order to survive, in order to defend itself, in order to dominate,
right.
in order to be right.
Yeah.
You know, but
There's a doubt. To still have a doubt between, the oneness that's happening right now.
well, yeah, you look, you can be perfectly secure in the love of God beyond all doubt, question, and fear, and be experiencing or feeling doubt. Just like you can feel the energy of anger and choose not to be angry, not to be expressing anger. Your mind can be all over the place, and you can be still in the midst of that storm of this, that, and the other thing. You're not your emotions. You're not your thoughts. You're not that idea and that idea. They don't rule your mind. You rule your mind. All right, so this is the way to reverse, just like Honora did right now, when she caught herself and realized she was preaching. She was preaching a disclaimer. She was dissing herself. I'm not there yet. Everything about this entire system says, excuse me, could you possibly accept the idea that you might be wrong about whether you're here or there? That you may not know, and because you're so caught up in what you think you know, you're denying the authority within your holy self that would speak on your behalf if you would train your mind to be still and not refute it. Not make claims that Now look, is it okay to have a certain affinity for the early workbook lessons and to have a thought or a feeling that the later workbook lessons are not as appealing to me? That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that thought, just as long as you know you're full of shit. You know what I mean? Just as long as you, what I mean by that is, yeah, just as long as you know that it's just my mind.
Yeah. Making
an exception, saying this is different from this. But in the universe of God creating, in the universe of perfect love, heaven here and now, there are no differences. And that's why you can be of good cheer anywhere, no matter what you think yourself to be.
At the effect of being, stupid again. Okay. No. Don't. All right. I'm not going to say that. Lord, I am not stupid. God didn't create stupid. He didn't create me stupid. And the thing is that I appreciated so much Christ's first lessons because they are so simple. They're so small and simple, yet they're not really the easiest thing for a mind that's been doing whatever it wants to do. But it focuses on, in the sense, so when you said something about you can't see this thing, this is not, it brought me right back to that lesson. I said, wow, that was a powerful experience for me right there and then. That's why I love the early lessons, too.
Sure, no problem. As long as you realize it's only what I think. It's not the truth. The truth is there's no difference. There's nothing more complicated or more difficult about lesson 262 than there is about lesson 1. They're all the same. It's only my mind that makes exceptions, that makes one thing appear to be more desirable than another. One form of holiness appear to be more attractive and appealing than another form of holiness. Holiness is holiness. That's all I need to know. And then the playing field is level. And it's all gratitude and equality and wondrous. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say, difficulty is something that it's one of the things that I have to keep reminding myself that if I'm seeing this as difficult, I'm going to experience difficulty. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And, there's, no matter what's happened in the past, if I get caught up in that, this is difficult because I remember this was difficult before, and it's difficult before,
The mind is like it's
then I can't think outside that paradigm. I don't know if you all have seen the TV show Lost. Have you seen the show?
No.
It's wonderful. But anyway, basically every episode is a character dealing with how they work through their past. It's very beautiful. A long time ago it was on.
Is it a series that's on now?
Yeah, no, it's not on now. It was on in like the mid 2000s.
Oh, okay.
And it gained quite a following. But every episode is someone trying to, they're dealing with their present situation with their past thoughts.
Right.
And they revert back to the past and they see how they learned their past, and usually within the episode, not always, but usually they're willing to let go of their past to progress onward in their life. But we're talking about 1 45-minute episode, they're able to do that. For me, it seems like it's not going to be, well, I don't want to say it's not going to be, but often I forget at how easy it is to let go of that. And I have to remember.
That's a part of the learning curve, certainly for me as well, is I have to be actively involved. It seems I have to be actively involved in reminding myself that nothing is hard.
Yeah.
That nothing need be difficult.
Yeah.
And that whatever difficulty I'm experiencing is only because I'm making an exception where there are none. I'm resisting. I'm doing Jeffrey instead of Holy Son. I'm doing Jeffrey's bidding as an ego self rather than God's Holy Son. It's that simple. So look, we who are one would recognize this day the truth about ourselves. The truth is very simple. Very simple. We would come home and rest in unity. When?
No.
There is no other life. There's no other rest of your life. Aquí, si, qui. This is it. We would come home and rest in unity. Home, unity, rest is all right here. It's an experience of right here. And I must be responsible for recognizing that holy here now doesn't change when I pick up the checkbook or pick up the guitar or gotta go. Whatever it is I think I need to do. That experience, that fundamental, original causation goes with me everywhere I go. I need only remember it to be under the influence of it. To be aware that I am of that and under the influence of it. To be aware of it. That requires humility. I have to be willing to set aside what I've argued and fought for my whole life and defended myself and made an exception of myself for with others. That's how I made a life for myself. What I had to realize, though, I didn't make a life for myself. I made a hell for myself. I made something that couldn't possibly comfort me or be comforting. Right? So I have to be willing to step aside to get out of that, to be out of that thought that I'm thinking. Did you have something?
No.
Oh, okay. I just
so.
have a sense you were on the verge of saying something.
I don't think so. I'm just, this is helpful. This is a
Great.
helpful experience.
Yeah, great. Well,
Helpful reminder.
my sense is you're all doing great. You're all awake.
Right.
You're not nodding out. We all seem connected. We're laughing together. Every now and then I throw in a little something or other and you laugh at it, which is what I'm intending for you to do, right? Because laughter can help levitate the situation, lighten it up. It's all about, enlightenment is about lightening up.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good.
Not thinking further.
That's good.
So we who are one would recognize this day the truth about ourselves. We would come home and rest in unity. For there is peace. For there is peace.
There is peace.
And nowhere else can peace be sought and found. That rest of your life is right here.
Right here.
The thing that I'm longing for and wanting is present and awaiting my notice. I need only notice it. I need only open my mind to the reality that it's happening. It's happening. It's already here.
It's a good reminder that it's easy. Yeah.
To get out, yeah,
Easy.
because easiness is what is life outside or beyond the impositions I would enforce upon it, impose upon it. Right? You know, Jesus is up on the cross. He goes through this horrible experience, and what were his final words? I think, according in the story, was, "It is all accomplished." Not his death. It's all accomplished. I mean, that was this moment of being done with this crazy dream he had, or I had. You know. So the Italians would say "gabish," "gabisha." Very simple, always simpler than I think. And that's why ultimately all of this word stuff, you know, it just all evolves into knowing it. I don't have to read it 6 times. I don't even have to read it the first time. Because I'm it. I'm the author of it.
Gus doesn't have to read it.
Nor does the table to be a table, to function and fulfill its purpose and function. Right? So it's incomprehensibly simple and easy and available. You just have to recognize the difficulties associated with having it your way and be willing to set it aside. To not bind yourself to it, to recognize it for what it is. It's just a thought I'm thinking. It's not what I am or who I am or where I am.
So could you say, you know, the choice is, do I, quote, win, or do I enjoy myself?
Yeah, exactly. And the way Jesus says it in the Course, he says, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? There's nothing to be right about. Why? Because there's no wrong. It's not a right or wrong issue. It's a happy.
Why do we want to be right?
The question would only have sense within the system, the illusion that could conceive of it. So the best way to answer it is don't try to answer it, because you'll think you came up with something. There's no answer for it.
Your ego more?
Well, there's no answer. There's no answer.
There's nothing.
There's no answer for the ego because there is no ego.
Okay.
There's no answer for doubtfulness and fear because doubtfulness and fear don't exist. That's the answer.
But when I want to be right so bad or something,
you don't. I mean, just look at the contradiction in terms of the sentence itself, the words you just chose. Why would I want to be right so bad? How could rightness be bad? Do you see how confusing, how faulty and error-prone, the whole convoluted, and hopelessly mired in conflict, the whole personality self, separate personality self, thinks in terms of. So the only way to find relief, comfort, meaning, freedom, a sense of enlivenment, like you're exhibiting now, you're smiling, is to think outside of that, think beyond that. Don't be caught up in it's this, that, or the other thing. They're just thoughts you're having. You are not those thoughts. And there is no but.
Yeah, but
So you notice
Yeah,
your
yeah.
mind. You notice your mind making exceptions, and you elect to not live under the influence of those exceptions because they're costly. You're learning that, and you will continue to learn that until you get it, until you're just done with it. When you're done with it, you'll be able to watch your mind and chuckle about it.
When am I going to be done with it?
Whenever you elect to be. Given the fact that you were never under the influence of or caught up in it to begin with. A dream is a dream. It didn't happen.
Oh, yeah, it's a dream.
Yeah.
This is a useful thing to remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
With your
So the answer to the dream is to be awake in your dream.
Okay.
Be awake in the dream. I'm awake in my dream of separation, but I needn't have trial or tribulations about anything in the dream because I'm awake, and none of it is true. Only the truth is true. Use your mind on behalf of what it is, not against itself. Use it for itself. Use it as a means of transition, as a means of freedom, as a means of being, rather than assigning itself to some position in time. Be happy, having recognized the futility of trying to be right. You tried it. Now you know being right is being right. It ain't all it's, we're trumped up to be.
Trumped up.
It's just...
How do I be happy in the middle of all the distractions? Like, the news and all this stuff and all this.
The news...
Seeming threats.
Yeah,
Seeming things.
the news is, they're all thoughts you're thinking. That's bring it down, pare it down to its fundamental, the essence of what it is. It's just a thought. There is no news. And, certainly the news doesn't mean what I think it means. And yet all the while there is the business of the new, the holy here now. That's news. Be in on that. And that's abstract. That has nothing to do with any of those form-associated or related distractions. So, don't be of the mind that's distracted. Be of the mind you share with God. Think abstractly, beyond form. Think creatively. Think perfectly, formlessly, in recognition and in acceptance and celebration of the all that is the nature and the reality that you share with God. I'm not over here. I'm not in this thing that appears to be threatened or worried. I'm not over here. There is no over here to be in.
How do you contribute then most efficiently and valuably to the collective and to yourself?
Say that again?
How do you contribute most efficiently and most valuably to the collective and to yourself?
That's extremely simple. You be yourself.
Okay.
You be Holy Son. You be happy. You be at
And that's
rest
how you
and at peace.
contribute to that, and then that reflects a different.
Well, what is that? If that is some aspect of your holiness.
Yeah.
So recognize the holiness. Celebrate the holiness. Don't get caught up in thinking you know what that is and that it's a problem. There are no problems. God didn't create any problems. How else can you contribute to the end of suffrage, of human suffrage, but by sharing the mind that doesn't suffer? The understanding that's beyond the suffering that you are privy to. Because God didn't create any sufferers. He didn't create anything that could suffer. It's all made up. You get it? It's a dream.
Why is there so much seeming suffering then?
Look, you dream a dream of separation all the while safe in God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so be safe. Be the agent of God's safety. Be the spokesperson, the representative, the expressor of
And
life.
Spirit will direct you in the best path that is needed for most.
I guarantee it.
Okay.
And it'll be most personal, most intimate, most delicious and indescribable and uniquely your own, the experience of it. And it will bring you closer and more deeply and intimately connected to everything that you are already thankful and grateful for, and naturally expand and deepen your own ability to share that with the rest of all that you are. Only God can do that. Only perfect intelligence can do that. Only loving presence can do that. Only you, yourself, as God knows you and loves you and celebrates you, can do that. And that you already have and are. Be that. I think that'll work out well. All right?
Okay.
All right. Yeah, you guys are great. And I really, again, appreciate your staying in it. You're leaning in these directions that I seem to speak in terms of, and seems to get the job done. It seems to, you all look good to me. You look like, you look good.
You look good too.